the right bhavana would be the right attitude, the right holistic understanding of not just what you're doing, but what are you doing it for. We are back with another reflection on TDV. Another shout out to, if you go to thedailyvedantic.com, we've got the Daily Vedantic GPT chatbot there that you can ask any and all questions to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, and it is completely free. You don't need to set up an account or anything. You can just ask it any question you want about this philosophy or about life, you could put in a circumstance you're working through right now, see what this philosophy would say about it. It's a miracle of modern technology. Crazy powerful and cool to see people using it. The reflection today, though, outside of that call out, is around this concept within the philosophy of Vedanta called, it's a Sanskrit word. And I always say, I don't want to use the Sanskrit words because just better use the English words, and I don't want this to become some scholarship type of exercise of flexing exotic words and terms.
The house of learned doctors.
Because that's just lame and loses people. But there's no real good English translation for this word within philosophy, which is bhavana, which is kind of like attitude. It's kind of like attitude, but so much more. And it ties to the professional adage and kind of pithy phrase that is used quite often in hiring, that it's much better to hire for attitude over aptitude, meaning it's much better to hire for someone that is, let's say, a positive force for a team, that's aggressive, not afraid to fail, not dramatic, not selfish, over just someone that has great aptitudes but is selfish or is kind of negative or dramatic. It's attitude over aptitude. And this maps to that because the concept of bhavana, it's more like your holistic approach. It's not just your attitude, but it's your holistic approach, your 360-degree view of what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you're doing it for. So approaching, let's say you make music with the right bhavana. It's not just the attitude in that morning while you're making the music. It's an understanding of why you're making the music. The right bhavana would be, okay, I'm making this music because I have a natural wiring and inclination to make music. It's just something that, okay, I just have that wiring. Then it's a desire to serve your community. The right bhavana would be, okay, I'm making this music because it's pleasing to the ears of the people around me. And, they'll whistle while you work. While I make music, people around me, they maybe enjoy it. Maybe they're working through something. It helps them. It's a small relief. They actually say that music, with the right music. I saw this a week ago with the right music. Patients need half the pain medication than patients that aren't listening to music. So maybe you are healing those around you with music, and that's your approach to making the music. A surrender to a duty-bound existence and service within your wiring of making music. Or maybe it's business, or maybe it's parenthood. But the right bhavana would be the right attitude, the right holistic understanding of not just what you're doing, but what are you doing it for? And if you kind of skip to the end of the story, what is the best bhavana according to this philosophy? It is in this surrender. Surrender to a duty-bound existence. This is in the Gita, chapter 18, where the concept of surrender to a duty-bound existence and immediate peace follows is outlined. That when we surrender, if it's a pursuit of peace that we're all after, it's inner peace, inner happiness. Well, this philosophy says surrendering to a duty-bound existence. Not only do you get peace, but you get it immediately, which is so counter to everything we hear in the West, where it's all about especially anything that's just riddled with the romantic philosophy. The romantics in kind of a counter move towards the Enlightenment period just went all towards emotion, willpower. If you will it, if you want it hard enough, you can make it happen. And so this is where we get all of these stories of like the hero wanting it, making it happen. The romantic notions of, all right, if you want to win 7 championships, you just got to want it hard enough. That's part of it. But if you really want inner peace, desire is the antithesis of inner peace. If you want to win 7 championships in something way bigger than any amount of desire is actually a surrender to, is that your nature? Because no matter what desire I had, I'm not going to win any NBA championships. But if you surrender to your nature, then you add in, pitch up a higher desire, maybe to inspire a nation, inspire a community. And if you have that wiring, but you have a lowly desire of, if I could just win all these championships, then I'm going to finally get the love of my father. Finally going to get the admiration, sense of belonging that I've been chasing my whole life, that will corrupt our actions. It will actually undo what we're trying to gain. Maybe you even end up with those championships. But you're so far from the peace that you're actually chasing that you'd give it all away just to have the thing you really want. Mike Tyson is a good example where he talked about when he was winning. He was on top of the world. The whole world focused on Mike Tyson in the early 90s. Not only did he have so much inner turmoil during this, but he said it was the unhappiest he'd ever been in his life. And it took getting arrested, going to jail for him to reset. From the top of the world to a 6x6 jail cell. Quite the comeuppance, but according to him, biggest blessing he could ask for. So you might even end up with those championships because of the aptitude, but the wrong attitude. You end up with some pieces of metal and not the thing you really want inside, which is that peace, that happiness that we're all chasing. So what's the best of all of these worlds? It's the right attitude, which is even more important than the aptitude, but then combined with the right aptitude. It is doing things with the right attitude and the right holistic understanding of why to do it in the first place. It's not just doing it with positive mental attitude or a positive spirit. It's doing it from a higher ideal of, you might go into it knowing, this is going to be one hell of a striving and struggle. Where you go into it feeling like, oh man, this is surrender and sacrifice. But that is the right bhavana. The right, again, attitude doesn't quite do it justice. But that is the right approach. And what we find on the other side is immediate peace, the generation of energy, boundless energy, because of this understanding of what we're doing and what are we doing it for. And what else do we find on the other side of approaching something with the right bhavana? Well, it's pretty kick-ass. You end up discovering everything you ever wanted. Crushing that task and challenge, becoming a great musician or businessman or great parent, thriving in that role, but also, and most importantly, the right inner state that we're chasing with every external pursuit. Sense of inner peace and prosperity. And an inner state of these two that is incomparable to any external accolade. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.